is why is it they're happy and content to drive around in really mucky cars? Many people who I know have expensive, flash and new cars and think that that's what it's all about. They don't even wash it themselves, they get somebody else to do it. And to my mind, a nice car is a looked after car. And I find it quite amusing when you have people that will turn their nose up at an old Rover because it's not very fashionable. They think that their filthy, unwashed car full of crisp packets and discarded sweet wrappers and bits of fast food debris everywhere is a nice car. The unfortunate thing about old cars, of course, is you've got to live with other people's damage, such as that. Everywhere I drive, people will be assuming that I can't park a car, which isn't, of course, the case. As strange as this might sound, the nicest car that I have ever had is actually Project Nigel, because all of the scuffy bits have been taken off and replaced with things that may be the wrong colour, but at least they're not full of scratches everywhere. Anyway, I might be getting off the point slightly there, which was, why don't people wash their own cars? To me, this car is absolutely filthy. To many, it probably still looks okay. Look, I mean, the wheels aren't black or anything like that. You know, when the wheels go black, then you know that's when you need to change your car. Yeah, I mean, look at this down here, all this stuff that's stuck to the side. That's not good, is it? I just want to go down the dealership and buy a new car now because I'm sick of seeing that. You probably think that's a joke. Well, it is, but it's also the truth. The amount of cars I've acquired off people in much worse condition than this, with dirt, cleaned it up and then I sent them a picture and they've been amazed and said, oh, wow, I didn't think that car could ever look that good again.
So, Mr. Mustard, what products do you use to clean your car?
Well, I start with the greatest solvent known to man.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Water.
Oh.
Obviously there's a bit more to it than that. Nice little rinse off, great. But that genuinely is some people's idea of washing a car. Tip some water on it and that should do the job, yeah? Now there's a chap over in Mossley whom I know quite well, who I consider to be quite a good friend. And his philosophy on this is have a silver car because then you don't need to wash it. It doesn't show up the dirt. I've got to say I disagree with that. It still shows the dirt up. Silver's not a particularly nice colour on any car to start with. So if it's your choice of colour, it's because you don't really want to look at it. Actually, there's another thing he says, and that is that we live in Britain and it's always raining. So we don't need to wash our cars because the weather takes care of it. So the washing process has started. And I got distracted by a thought. Some people get their cars washed at these kind of drive-in places that used to be petrol stations and now just have a whole load of people in there working all day, getting soaking wet and probably very uncomfortable, doing what's basically your job. The bit I don't quite understand is that while these people are washing your car, you're still there. It's not like you're going off doing anything else, is it? You've got to wait. You've got to sit in your car and move it along so they can get the wheels properly and move on to the next one. So it's not really even any quicker, is it? I know that many people will say something like, I've got better things to do than wash my car. Yeah, like sitting in your car while somebody else washes it for you. And quite possibly not as well. Who do you know that really likes their job? People do, obviously, but the majority of people don't. And why would you? People don't go to work for something to do. They do it to earn some money. And they want their job to be as easy as possible and as stress-free as possible, and they want to just leave it behind them when they go home. Why should they be as careful about it as what you are? Using all the same washing materials as what they did on the previous car, which might be much dirtier than yours. You can create swirls and scratches, and how are you going to know that they did it? And how are you going to prove it? And you wouldn't notice anyway. You don't even know what your car looks like. That's why you often see people trying to get into other people's cars, because they don't even know what their car is. And that explains the success of the key fob. You don't need to know what your car is, you just press the button and the one that opens must be yours. My brother once told me he was sat waiting in a car park when a lady came up to his car and tried to get into it because she thought it was her car. Even though he was sat in it, when she did find her own car, it was a different model altogether, but more surprisingly, a different colour as well. That's how switched off people are. Righto, back to the point. This wheel, for example, has taken a couple of weeks to gather that amount of dirt. That's quite a lot of stop-starts over maybe 200 or 300 miles. Oh, I wonder, how many miles has this wheel done without a wash? As you can see, I have not cleaned this wheel, but all 5 of these wheels were in exactly the same kind of condition as that. I've almost finished cleaning this. They're still a bit wet and I've got to dry it off and do some other things as well yet. But I'm getting distracted again. This time I'm distracted by hunger. I need some breakfast. Would you like to guess what I'm going to have for breakfast today? It's curry! Now you might look at that and think, well, that's not much of a portion, is it? But it's because it's breakfast, not dinner. Once you've cleaned your car, you're more likely to spot any new scratches. And I had a new one just the other day, courtesy of someone who I don't know, on this corner just there. You can see it there and there. But the really, really strange thing is, this was white. I thought it was white paint, but it seems to have washed off and left behind some sort of black stuff instead. Almost like whoever did that tried to buff it out, which is rather unusual. I mean, it's quite nice really. You have a little bump and you've got the conscience to actually try and make amends. Just not enough to admit to your accident in the first place. Now this is drying out, it actually looks worse than I originally thought. And that's another thing. If you've got a dirty car, that dirt will cause more scratches in the car that you crash into. If you're not careful enough to clean your own car, then you're not going to be careful enough not to crash into somebody else's car. And because you've got dirt all over your car, that abrasive action is going to cause even more damage. As my friend Lee Allen said to me in one of the comments today, some people will just see an old Rover with a mismatched door handle, bump into it and assume that it really doesn't matter. It's just an old car. Why would anybody care? Well, I'll tell you what, if you see a small dog cowering in a corner because it's obviously been abused and beaten and stuff like that, do you think, fair game, I'll give it a kicking as well. It's time to see if I can make this look a little bit better. Well, look at that. That looks much better. When it dries, it probably won't do. While I'm at it, I may as well see if I can remove some of the paint imperfections along the side of the car. There's quite a few minor scratches along here. None of that important, but I like clean things. I haven't really got the scratches much better, but quick buff up. Just what a staggering colour this really is. If I could get the rest of the car to look like that, I would be very happy. Just been using some of this stuff for some of this waxy stuff there, and it's particularly good, I think. And it's got one of those tops on where you need to be made so children can't mess with it, which is a good thing because this is a man's job. Not only that, it's got a manly smell to it, like an old car polishing manly smell, which is great because everything else these days sort of smells like flowers. Now that is the end of the video. But just one more thought. If ever I was to be offered the position of some product placement for car polishing stuff or any of that kind of thing put in my videos, well, I can tell you this. If I didn't like the stuff, I'd say so. Seriously, I am never ever going to make myself any friends in advertising because it's just too much fun saying what I think. When you see a small child outside a supermarket left abandoned by its mother while she goes in and tries to buy some fags, do you then take pity on that child and steal its bag of sweets?
Go to sleep!